My name is Francisco Chavarria. This video blog is made with the intention of being part of a discussion for my Chicano legal history class. So let's get to it. We're going to be talking about differential racialization. And what this is the theory that different minority races in the United States, such as Mexican Americans, Asian Americans, Blacks, Native Americans, have been racialized in different ways to meet the needs of the majority. And in this country, since the beginning, or at the beginning, the majority was Anglo Americans, which are white. An example of this would be the Jim Crow law, which was the legal separation of races in public domains such as restaurants and schools, which ultimately got abolished. But it's very eye-opening to see that a majority race would have the power to even do this. And this is covered also in the critical race theory, which is saying that these things that were law and created by one race to control another race has embedded racism into the very foundation of this country. We've come to the point where we can just say, oh, that's a white person thing to do, or oh, that's so Mexican of him to do. And we don't even see this as racism. It's just something that we say and something we genuinely believe, but we don't feel is racist. And the downside to this, or depending on how you look at it, I guess, is that it's created a form of white privilege, like discussed in the videos that we saw this week, mainly the white like me. And white privilege doesn't mean like, oh, I'm better than you because I'm white. What it means is that there's certain things that you wouldn't have to worry about for being the majority of race. You never have to worry about getting pulled over by a police officer and getting racially profiled for doing something. Or even legally, you can probably get away with a lot more because you're not going to get profiled. But it's not something that you should be like, oh, wow, you know what? I don't have to worry about stuff like that. But, in reality, there are things that you don't have to worry about and that other races do have to worry about. One aspect of this week's readings or videos that I found extremely interesting and I had never heard before was the controversial story of Juan Cortina. And if you're not familiar with this one, let me just touch bases with it really quick. There was a Mexican man who was being rowdy and rambunctious and was asked to leave an establishment. He wouldn't do it. So they got law enforcement involved. The sheriff came in, escorted this gentleman out, and then took it upon himself to start beating this man with his gun. And Juan Cortina just happened to be passing by on his horse, and he was like, oh man, this is just another example of the white man doing whatever they want to, the Mexicans. So he said, hey, you know what? Release this guy. And the sheriff wouldn't do it. He's like, go out on your way, man. This doesn't have anything to do with you. So Juan Cortina took his gun out, shot it in the air, and said, give me this man. The sheriff took it as a form of disrespect, which it probably was, pointed his gun at Juan Cortina. Juan Cortina then pointed his gun back at the sheriff. They both shot at each other. Sheriff missed. Juan Cortina didn't, hitting the officer in his arm. When this trial went to court, or this matter went to court, Juan Cortina thought to himself, wow, here I am in a court system built with the theories of white people, and my freedom is going to be judged by white people. So it's like, why? How is this fair to me? Mexicans are losing their lands because of our legal system. Mexicans are getting the short end of the stick here. So he had enough. Enough was enough, and he decided to fight back. He developed a little bit of a crew for himself, and they pretty much went at war, I guess, where Texas Rangers were trying to corral him over and make him stop doing the things that he was doing, because he was fed up. And he and his men ended up defeating the Texas Rangers not once but twice. And it wasn't until the U.S. Army got involved that Juan Cortina had to flee to Mexico and ultimately be brought back over here for the crimes he committed. Now, this is controversial because you can't fight racism with racism. I understand that. But it's also very uplifting because it's one of those things where it depends on how you look at it. I mean, is this a part where he had enough and he had to fight back, or you know what, he was just doing the wrong thing. So, anyways, I'm interested in hearing what everybody else has to say, and I look forward to a good discussion. Thanks.